Hello and welcome to those endless mysteries. We're live, and I think I've got a really good show laid out for us tonight. I got some an article here about Dogman attacks, and I'm hoping to get a lot of questions and answers and a lot of opinions from people. So let's jump into the first story off of this thing. The first thing I want to bring up is that story comes from the Mysterious Universe. It's a nice little website that I like to enjoy. A lot of good articles on there about the paranormal, and I'll put a link into the description below for you also in this. So let's get started. One of the strangest one of the strangest phenomena in the realm of the paranormal and cryptozoology is that of a supposed real werewolf, and in particular that as of what is known as the Dogman. Much like Bigfoot, these appear as hulking, massive mountains of fur and muscles, yet rather than ape-like, they are described as having decidedly canine features, often with a tail, and of alternating between walking on two legs or all fours. They have been sighted in a range of locations and serve to really go out into the truly outlandish. Yet, for as weird and scary as all of this is, even more frightening are the scattered reports of these spooky entities actually attacking people. One weird report of an apparent dogman attack of some form comes from the site beyond Creepy and occurred in the country of Mexico. The person who made the report says that it happened to his uncles as they were driving a truck through a rather remote jungle area at night. As they made their way along a rough and rugged unpaved road, something very large and heavy reportedly jumped into the back of their truck. And the person telling the account says of what happened next. Now, this will be from the witness who reporting the sighting. They didn't stop to see what it was because there was no lights on the road. My uncle on the passenger side saw this devilish creature that looked like a dog climbing closer to the cabin of the truck. They said the thing was huge. My uncle screaming in fear when they saw it. Said they tried to shake the truck, but it wouldn't fall off until they hit it against a tree on the opposite side of the road. They kept driving all night to the morning, all freaked out. When they got to a gas station in a village, they saw gash marks and hand but animal prints on the windows where it was trying to get in and on the back of the trailer. They told their story to some of the villagers or farmer, and they told them that dog-like demons roamed those areas, and they were not the only ones who have been attacked before. They were so freaked out, the hair on both their arms rose even telling their experience. They said they never drove through Central America beside the city or villages at night ever again. I wish I could have recorded them telling the stories. They have died already, but even before they died, they stuck with what happened to them and they never did drugs. So now that was for the first one. And I see there are a few joining us, and I'm glad to have y'all here tonight. Now, if you have any questions, comments, opinions, please feel free to use them. And like I said, I'm going to break this article into four different groups tonight and try to drag it out a little bit. Well, not drag it out. I just want comments and opinion on the sightings from everyone if I can get them. So if anybody has any question about the first sighting, and if not, I can move on to the next. which is a very disturbing story. The site Phantoms and Monsters has several reports of apparent Dogman attacks. One of these supposedly happened on a tract of forested land near the Ohio River in Maysville, Kentucky. The witness says a teen at the time, with a group of other teens just out messing around exploring an abandoned hospital in the area called Hayesworth Hospital. But this night was about to prove to be a bit more eventful than any of them could have imagined. They had split up to go poking around the dusty ruins of the dilapidated hospital, and at some point, the witness became aware of a fetid stench like something rotting as he was exploring the basement of the building, which incidentally had once been used as the morgue. The flooded floor was covered with about 3 inches of water, and as he sloshed through it, then heard a metal door slam, and something ran through the water at a distance away. The witness thought this was just his friends playing a practical joke on him, so he wasn't scared just yet, but he soon would be. He decided to get up on top of the long abandoned coolers that had once been used for storing dead bodies, hoping to get the jump on his friends and scare them. But as he lay there, he says the darkness was pierced by someone screaming. He still thought that one of his friends was just messing with him, so he stayed still. But soon that smell of rotting meat prevailed the air around him once more, and he could hear footsteps in the water, as well as a sound like panting or a labored breathing and sniffing. At this point, the witness was overcome by a sense of pure dread, jumping down from the cooler to go running towards the exit to the morgue, hearing the panting and the water splashing right behind him, as well as an ominous low growl. In a panic, he spilled it. So he split. He he spilled into the boiler room and stood as still as possible. As he waited there, something very large and strong allegedly started to slam into the door to the boiler room, and there was a sound like the scratching of claws against the steel. The terrified witness then ran towards the other end of the boiler room in a bid to reach the access to the generator and the dock door used to unload in the hillside that led to the woods. And he says of what happened next. Now, this is in the witness's own words. I opened the door to the dock room, and when I looked back, excuse me, I saw the arm of this creature sticking through the opening that it made, and it was like a horror movie. It was a gray and brown mass of fur. It looked like a human's arm, but it didn't because the hand was all wrong. The hand had 5 digits, but the claws would have made a bear run in fear. I slammed the door behind me and ran for the dock doors. The dock doors wouldn't budge, and I could hear the gurneys overturning and the lockers sliding on the floor. It was getting through, and the only thing between me and it now was a single door. I ran to one of the windows by the dock's doors and proceeded to bust it out which mangled my hand from the glass. Then I was pulling myself through the window. I heard the door get slammed into, and one of the hinges completely flew off of the door and hit the wall. I tumbled out of the window and hit the cold, wet ground. When I stood up, I saw it in the doorway. Now, he says that he is 6'4" and 250 pounds, not little by any means. And this thing took up the entire doorway, an 8-foot tall, 3-foot wide door. It was covered head to toe in gray brown fur. It had a very narrow snout, almost like a Doberman pincher, and its ears were just barely visible because of the doorway. But I could tell they were pointing up just like a dog. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was completely paralyzed. This thing was staring right into my soul. Then it snarled at me, and that woke me from my disbelief of what I was seeing. I turned and ran. I ran up the hill into the woods to get around the hospital, to get back to the streets where the car was parked. I hadn't made it 25 foot when I heard its clawing to get out of the window. I knew I would never make it to the car this way. So I ran back towards the hospital where the fire escape ladder was. I had used a ladder before to climb to the roof to take pictures of the entire town. I completely skipped the first 3 runs on the ladder and was now inside the enclosed part of the fire escape. Again, this thing howled, and I could feel waves of pure terror filling my body. My hand, my hand was killing me at this point, and I was getting blood on everything. Let me see. I lost where I was at. Point. Getting blood on this. Just as I was reaching the first floor window, I could climb into this thing's. I could climb into. This thing slammed into the fire escape ladder, knocking me down a couple runs. It leaped onto the outside of the fire escape and began clawing at my feet. Just as I reached the window, I felt it. Pain like nothing I've ever felt before. It had grabbed just above my ankle and yanked, and in doing so, shredded my boot and end of my jeans and into my flesh. I was able to pull myself into the first floor window, and I heard it push itself off the fire escape and headed back the way it had came. I now dragged my left leg and trying to keep my right hand in my hoodie pocket. The entrance we came in from is only about 150 feet away down the main hall and around a left turn. As I'm halfway down the hall, I hear the steel doors slamming once again. I'm dragging myself down the hall, just trying to stay focused on getting out of the hellhole. Then the howling starts again, and I can hear it getting closer. I make the turn and hear the pounding coming up the stairs from the basement. I make it to the entrance and hear the padding of hands and feet on the floor. I made the mistake of looking back just as it rounded the corner, and it was running on all fours like a real dog. I bolted down the hill towards the street where the car was parked and realized the car was gone. They had left me. My only way of escape was gone. He claims that he careened off into the night, running down the hill to start banging on the door of the first house he came to. Luckily for him, an elderly lady let him in, and seeing the state that he was in, called the police. When the authorities arrived, He told them his wild tale, but they did not believe him, despite the fact that he had injuries to corroborate his story. The witness says, when the cops got there and asked me what happened, I told them the same thing I've said here. Of course, they didn't believe me and thought I was on drugs. The EMTs took me to the hospital, and when they did blood work and found no substance in my system, they then concluded I was attacked by a wild dog. I ended up with 36 stitches in my leg and 17 in my hand. I had to get rabies shots and tell the local wildlife officer my story. He informed me that they had reports of wild dog packs running around the outside of town, ransacking garbage cans and killing some of the local pets. I informed him that it wasn't a pack of wild dogs, and it was a giant dogman, but they all just thought I was crazy. The only thing I had in my favor was the claw mark on my leg. Even the doctors were confused about how a wild dog could make a mark like that. It is hard to know. It is hard to know what to make of this case. It is so dramatic and spectacular that it has the feel of a movie script or creepypasta. But who knows? Perhaps. So let's stop there on this one. I don't want to go any further in the article till maybe I can see if we have any questions or any opinions on that story. Like I get said once before, this article comes from the Mysterious Universe website, and I left a link to the article itself. So, does anyone have any questions for me? Anything about Dogman? Any opinions? Any theories? I would love to hear them. And hello to everyone out there. So I'm right here on live feeds. I got them right here in front of me. So if anybody has any questions about Dogman or about the stories I've read, I would love to hear them and answer them. I'm wanting to do this article in, like I said, 4 steps. So I would love to hear any information. Are all wolves white? No. Parents of Zachary, all wolves are not white. They can be a dusty color. I've seen black wolves. They can be tan and white. They can be gray and white. Many different colors. Even dogmen are said to be different colors. I've heard of gray ones. I've heard of white ones, black ones. Most common is black and tan. At least a lot of stories I've covered has been black and tan. So if anyone else would like to throw anything out there, I know we don't have a whole lot of people in the live event right now. Not many at all. So I've sent out a lot of invitations, but I guess just no one's returning. So I guess I just turn it more into a video then if nobody has any questions. And I'll go ahead and just go on back into the article. The pictures behind you scare me. Thank you. I love this. Well, you're welcome. Yeah, I printed off some pictures, just kind of make a little sign behind me. But I do want to get into some theories on these dogmans and talk some stories. With just like within that first one, I think if I had a creature like that jumping back of my truck, yeah, I think it would have scared me, especially trying to come through the back window on someone. And but this last story, I've never heard the second one. I had heard the one from Mexico before, while doing research and reading. And the funny thing is, I use Phantoms and Monsters sometimes because I get great stories. I use a lot of sites where, in my research, where people go out and they do, um, where I do my research. But in a lot of these website, people can come and post their sighting reports, and I'll get a lot of sighting reports off of these sites, and I look through them, and I go over them, and I like to share them with everybody. Okay, do they ever go into the cities? There have been sightings in cities such as I've, I've heard about a sighting in Detroit. Um, a lot of sightings on the outside of cities. I've heard sighting around Chicago area. I've also, I think I had one right on the outskirts of New York City, just as it starts getting a little wilderness to it. And there was one story I got where a woman was watching TV one night and she looked out and sitting on top of a house, she swears was a dogman creature. And it sat there and it was like peering at her from another house. And then she just took off and jumped off the house. So that was a good one. Do I have any reports of female dogman? Well, I would say if it's a biological creature that they would be females. That's the only thing there is. But there's a lot of theories out there. One are that they're uh, let me see. One theory is that they're skinwalkers. Actually, all the reports of dogman sightings coming in are like skinwalkers from the Navajo and Ute tribes, but they're seen all over the country anymore. They used to be more into strange wolf sightings in the Arizona, Nevada, Utah area, but since the 1800s, a lot of the sightings are coming from about everywhere. I mean, you got wolf sightings in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, but those are kind of linked into the loup garou or the rougarou. You have reports of these creatures all over Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Tennessee. I've had some couple from Oklahoma. Uh, a lot of states right now, people are seeing them. So a big theory is that these medicine people that have became and sold their souls to have the ability to transform into these wolf-like creatures has moved out. So a lot of theory out there going around right now that I've heard from a few investigators right now is that wondering if these skinwalkers are trained medicine personnel, spiritual guides that has moved out more like a cult, becoming a cult that's stretching out over the country now, building up a cult or something like that. Um, Another theory is that they could be some kind of dire wolf or something that has evolved. Sorry, what is a dog man? From Mr. Ferguson. Can a skinwalker disappear like a demon? And what is a dog man? A dog man is a bipedal animal which can go down to all fours, from what I understand. They're described more as like a werewolf. Ancient talkings of like werewolves. Um, Skinwalkers can transform into a lot of different animals. Skinwalkers is one. And then, so for what is a dogman, I would say kind of like a werewolf creature or some kind of wolf that may have evolved into something, become smarter, and developing more like hands. They're said to have more 5-digit hands so that they can move more like a human now. but they also can go to all fours and run real good. Now we got another question coming in. Can a skinwalker disappear like a demon? A skinwalker, from what I understand, can't just disappear because it's actually a physical person that transforms into different animals. You know, they can be wolves, cougars, just a mass variety of animals. It depends on what the skins that they are wearing. The ancient Native Americans says that a skinwalker is a medicine person, a witch, uh, and stuff like that has learned. And funny thing in Navajo and Ute um beliefs are that they can these witches and medicine people, they have to commit a actual sacrifice of someone very close to them, and they have to take of that spirit, their spirit, and of their flesh and of their blood. So, you know, that's a very harsh thing to do, and most people just wouldn't do that. But they get the ability to change into all these people and become different animals. Um, see, Parent Zachary, that sign behind you, that's red sign behind you. I love it. Which one? The TM cast or those endless mysteries? It's got the blood dripping off of it. Uh, so now in that second story, I have a lot of questions about that because I've actually done probably 6 investigation for myself where I've talked to people that has had been severely chased. They've had to defend themselves with firearms and literally shooting them. Well, thank you. The TM cast up there. It's actually I need to get a mirror version of it because that's actually the company logo, my company logo, and those endless mysteries. That's just the name of the show we threw up, and so I'm glad you like those back there. And let me see. I was going to talk about that this second story we just read. The that really scares me because I've had several people this last couple of years. I did a story back in Kentucky that had a man and his, well, I said man, his son or daughter in the story because they do not want to be named. They are prominent in their community, and they didn't want to have it, but they was really upset. It really shook them up pretty bad. And they was out camping and fishing at a pretty remote lake. I went there and stayed 2 nights myself. They was out there, and they had a pack of dogmen, from what they said, come in. They saw at least 3 different creatures and thought there was a lot more. And it shot one of the creatures. It took off, and he was sure he'd probably killed that one because he shot it, he said, square to the chest. And when it came back in, it his son had seen the same one later, and he said the creature was still up walking and was coming in again and then darted off. And I think they had to go almost to daylight. I mean, they went through, it started pretty early, like around 12, and they lasted to daylight, almost battling these creatures. He said he was about to run out of ammo. They was getting really scared because he'd only shoot when he thought he had a shot on one. Um, okay, let me see. I do have a few. Let me jump in here and get a couple questions asked. I got a couple questions coming in and some comments. Voodoo. This is from Mark. Voodoo has a lot of stories that sounds like this. It is possible that they have released something during the rituals. That is possible. I mean, especially around Louisiana and all that, where voodoo is popular. There has been some Rougarou or Looparoo reports here lately that's been coming in. And I got another comment here from Space Jerk 35. Can you explain a little about eyes? Have you ever heard they have luminous eyes? Have you ever heard about that? The eye shine. Let me see. A lot of people that comes in from these reports. I've never seen, like I said, I've never seen one before in my life, but I have done researching for the past 27 years now, since 1994. Um, there is a lot of eye shine stories coming out where the first they see, and and it ranges from creature to creature, but in the Dogman stories, uh, it actually comes that the alphas has red eye shine. For some reason, it comes off, and there's like a pack of them together because these things have been spotted in packs many times. It's like the alpha will have a red eye shine, and the rest of the pack, or or a lot of other sightings, have green, yellowish, greenish eye shine to them. So, and with people even saying that they almost glow to them. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things out there, and so let me get back to the story I read earlier. With all that damage doing to his leg and all that, I mean, I can't see anybody doing that to themselves to make up a story. To have 37 stitches put in your leg, and then 17 in your hand, breaking a window trying to get away from some creature. Um, that leads some credibility to me. I mean, why would someone come in all messed up and then lie about it? Unless they was doing something really bad that they wasn't supposed to be doing, I guess. Oh, excuse me. But in that figure, he was saying is a lot of times how Dogman are described. It was kind of a brownish, whitish color. I think he said grayish. Okay, we got another question coming in. Sometimes this live chat throws me off, but I want to answer as many questions and take in as many comments and opinions about the stories as I can. So let me see. Jackson Ferguson, what's the difference between voodoo and black magic? Well, voodoo came out of Haitian. Um, as the Haitians moved into Louisiana, it became really a popular religion in that area. Now, I don't know much about voodoo. I've never studied, much about it, or black magic for that matter. Um, but which I would say in some of them, there's white magic and black magic. So voodoo, I would say, is in part, a lot of it is kind of leaning towards black magic to me. It's a lot of the ritual stuff. But as far as I can tell, voodoo is more like a religion to the people, which allows them to gives out. Also, they use a lot of herbs and spices, which makes potions. And but see, do you think Bigfoots hibernate? Well, that's a good question. Would they hibernate like a bear? I'm not for sure. I mean, I'll answer a Bigfoot question tonight. That's no problem. But I don't. There's an awful lot of sightings through the winter months, so I would say no to Bigfoot's hibernating. but it's a possibility, especially when you look at further north when the food sources would become very scarce, like Alaska or something like that. But I've never heard of them hibernating. Um, but that is an interesting thought if you'd get into. But I don't think so. I don't think they hibernate like a bear. Um, but back to the Dogman story itself, like I was trying to make a point that for someone to um, physically harm themselves to make a story like that, putting 37 stitches into their leg and 17 stitches through their hand while having these creatures chase them, and the leg has the claw marks, which the doctors couldn't even explain as coming from a dog. So that was interesting story to me. I'm just glad he made it out there and was able to give us his share his what happened to him with us. Because a lot of people just won't share what they have, the information they have, because they don't want to be ridiculed all the time. Um, uh, have a let's see. I got another question here. Space Jerk 35. Have you ever seen Michael Lacmont video from California of the Dogman of a Dogman? If so, what do you think about it? I've seen a lot of different videos. Is apparently of Dogman. Excuse me. Um, I'm not for sure if one of them was his or not because I don't. The name don't pop out to me, but it's very likely. Like I said, I've watched a lot of videos. But right in there, it could be one that I've seen, but the name's just not popping to me. Um, some of these videos are strange. I mean, it looks like there's a physical being there, the way they cast their shadows and stuff. But it's like anything else, science is not going to believe anything that they don't have um, a body for, the way it seems to be coming out. See the 2 minute mark. Okay, here's another question from Mark. Is there anything that will warn them off, make them go away? I mean, well, it depends if you believe a lot of the old uh, folklore about werewolves, which Dogman, you know, Dogman can be seen anytime. It's not like old werewolf stories where they're out going by the moonlight. Dogmen are seen, pretty much throughout the month. It doesn't matter what stage the moon is in. Far as warning them off. Now, if you go by old superstition and it is something like a werewolf, the old superstitions used to say stuff like wolfbane and which is a herb, I think, or some plant. Um, will keep them at bay. But that's just I'm not going to take at it as a fact. I mean, if I'm going off in the woods, if I see one, uh, I'm not going to hope I got wolf bait on me. I'm going to want something else. I'm going to want probably my shotgun. That'd be a good start. Maybe some good bear spray. Uh, just to start with when you go out looking for this stuff. And these creatures, they're rough. A lot of people see them, and there's been a lot of people reported to go missing, and couple reports I have of them killing people. I in this article, one of the stories that I'm wanting to go over later on is about a young boy being killed, and because I reread it, pre-read this story, brought it up. That's what caught my eye to it. So I'll get back into that one here and later. Um, so, but moving back to the last story I saw, the only thing is, I don't, with his friends leaving him there like that right there, I would really be mad at some friends. I mean, even if they got scared, he said he heard screams while he was down in the basement, but you wouldn't think they would just run off and leave you. But I guess if they seen what he saw, um, I could see someone running off, but they should have hollered for his friend at least. I believe so anyway. I don't think I would leave anybody under that situation. I'd at least be hollering for him as I was going out the door, uh, seeing something like that. But but that's for that story so far. So, do we have any more opinions on the story, or okay? I don't see nothing else coming in right now. So, let me go on back to the story, and we'll get this next one moved in and read into. Um, Let me see. I locked off, but who knows? Okay, perhaps just as substantial is another report from Phantoms and Monsters. This one supposedly from back in 1977 in a rural farming community in the U.S. state of West Virginia. The witness was apparently just a boy at the time and claimed that his grandfather often spoke about large, strange animals roaming about the property, with the old man no, taken to constantly keeping a gun with him at all times. The grandfather also told the boy to always lock his windows at night and to be careful when walking around outside at night. One evening, the boy heard something outside his window as his grandfather fell asleep in the living room with his gun on his lap, and the boy said he could hear a low growling from out past the window, but he couldn't see anything. The report says of what happened next. Now, this is from the man as he grew up after being a boy. It's from the witness. The witness looked and saw nothing in the window. He then went to get some candy from a bowl in the living room, and that's when he observed a claw coming in through the window, palm facing down, as it was going to push the window up. The window clearly saw three fingers. The witness clearly saw three fingers, the window. Listen to me. The middle finger was the longest. Years later, he claimed the fingers reminded him of the claws of a creature in Krampus, especially the scene where he pointed his finger into the woman's face. He screamed in fright, which woke up his grandfather. The creature also screamed. The grandfather went into flight mode and proceeded to hit the creature's fingers with his gun. The witness grabbed a knife from nearby and also stabbed at the fingers. At that moment, the grandmother rushed into the room and turned on the outside light, which lit up the yard. The witness could see the creature clearly standing in the window. He even looked into its eyes. The creature took off running just as the grandfather raised his gun to shoot it. According to the witness, the creature appeared to be angry and was growling as it ran. The witness acknowledged that he had went himself during the exchange. At some point, the grandmother stated that the creature had returned. It's back, she said, which surprised the witness. They proceeded to tell him that the creature had been seen around the property 3 years earlier, but had left. They assumed it had been killed. It had only started appearing again some 2 weeks earlier. This upset the witness, as he had been playing on the property and should have been alerted to it. The grandparents told him that in 1974, the grandfather was in a deer stand bow hunting when a strange creature attempted to climb the tree and enter the stand through a door hatch. The grandfather shot at it and stabbed at it, but it never stopped coming. Eventually, it attempted to poke its nose through the opening in the stand. That's when the grandfather stabbed it in the nose. It managed to get a paw through the slash and slashed the leg of his grandfather. The creature fled after that. The scar was visible on the nose of this creature standing at the window. As well, the grandfather also had his scar on his leg. The grandfather claimed he waited in the stand for 3 hours before feeling safe enough to climb down and leave. They had never heard of a dogman at the time, so they just referred to it as a werewolf. According to this report, over the coming weeks, there would be found dead there would be found dead farm animals on the property, apparently having been mauled by something very large and fierce. One day, when the grandfather failed to show up to pick him up from school, he walked home to find the old man dead in his truck, mauled in a similar fashion. As the farm animals, supposedly, the police would come to the conclusion that the man had died from an attack by an unknown animal. What is going on here? Did any of this really happen at all? Is it hard to say? Okay, let me stop on that one because we're getting ready to go into another actual sighting story. So I want to stop there and get y'all's take on that one if y'all have any. See, about David Pilatus are his books all about missing people, creatures, what or who is missing. Well, I have to say, as far as David Pilatus goes, a lot of his stuff is about missing people that comes up missing from the national forest. Um, and there is a lot of people that goes missing for no reason. Some of them's even been known to have GPS units on them, so they know where they're at and where they're going and how to get back. So, but a lot of children goes missing. Parents can turn their heads just for a few minutes, and next thing you know, they can't find their children and they just disappear. It's a very scary situation if you think about it. Because I have a grandson, and if he would go missing like that, I don't know what I'd do actually. So I feel for these families that where their family just goes off missing. And let me see, Mike Joseph. Dogmen have been here for thousands of years. Are they part of the fallen angels' DNA manipulation? They did this with all sorts of species. They did this with all sorts of species. Now, a theory about the Dogman that I kind of like this theory actually, is that way back in the woods, I mean, just off where people just normally don't go, that they are dire wolves still left. Uh, we know they lived up to at least 10,000 years ago. And a lot of them wonder, a lot of investigators sometimes wonder because for some reason all these sightings are just popping up. Dogman and just I mean, it was far a few. You hear reportings here and there and go back in papers. You can find sighting reports of them back in the 1800s and stuff like that. But since probably the 1970s, I think it started with Beast of Bray Road. Sightings has really taken off, and it started in Michigan, moved into Wisconsin, and pretty much they're almost all over the world now. There's been sightings of werewolf type creature or dogman type creatures through Germany, Europe, the UK. I've heard of sightings in Australia. Um, yeah, it's a phenomenon that has really took off since the 1970s or so. Um, People reach out to me sometimes, and we'll talk about different theories and stuff. A lot of other investigators, a lot of times we talk, we bumped into each other and came to know each other over the years, and a lot of us from different states, but we keep each other kind of tuned in to what's going on. Someone from Minnesota, I got a good friend in Minnesota, sometimes would send me information on sightings that they have up there, where they starting to have Dogman sightings up there kind of on a regular basis. And most people don't hear about these sightings because it's just people like me that goes out and likes to talk to people and sometimes comes across people willing to share their stories. Most people don't want to, and if their name's going to be mentioned, they definitely don't want to talk about it. They don't want to deal with the ridicule. They don't want people calling them crazy. And I don't blame them. I mean, who wants to go through life as that? Who wants to be a manager of some business or owner of a business, and then your local people in your area think you're losing your mind because you're saying you're seeing some of these creatures that everyone, all the science communities and everything tells us don't exist. Like I said, for every sighting that you probably heard about, or I've even heard about, there are probably 9, 10 more sightings per account that you do hear. So you may never hear about these creatures that often, but there's a lot of sightings. I truly believe this going on. Um, and they keep going on. And over the years, and some people will come forth and say, look, I'm older now. This is what I've seen. I don't care what anybody says. But a lot of people, especially when they're young, they're working. They don't want their co-workers and stuff looking at them and making fun of them, say, oh, he saw a dog man, and they don't believe in it because they've never seen one. Like myself, I've never seen one. I want to see one. So I get out there and I look for these things. Okay. And I tried to figure out what people are seeing. Some I try, after talking to people, I think are misidentifications. You can kind of, but sometimes when someone truly saw it and they describe it in such details, and you see their hands physically shaking, you see their eyes tear up from the emotion. It's hard to sit there and say that person is making that up. I mean, I would never do that to anyone because they truly feel in their heart that they truly saw someone. And I believe them when they tell me that. And you can see it. I mean, you can see it in their eyes, the fear that it just glazes over their eyes, and you can see it. You can see the trembling in their hands, especially if it's been a violent encounter. Because now, if it's been a violent encounter, then yeah, I've actually suggested for people go to counseling and stuff like that. For some of them, they've been really bad that I've came across. And a lot of these sightings I get by just going out and talking to people. I love talking to people, but I'm getting at the age now where I may not be able to do that as much. I mean, I'm 54 years old, but I still love doing my research. I'm out. I still go out and try to take in a research, do some camping and some investigation on the ground as much as I can. But I'm getting old and I've got a few health issues now. I have a weird condition where, if I start bending, I can just go down just like that, just out cold. And then I'm also got diagnosed with diabetes a couple years ago, so that's not a good thing to be going through. So, but it's a little harder for me to get out and really get into the field research anymore. But sometimes I do get out there. I just like I got to go. But I do have a good time doing it when I am out because I love camping and stuff. And let's get back to a couple of questions here. Can you please explain a little about how intelligent dogmen are? I have many times that they can use door handles. That why they always say you should lock your doors. That's why they always say you should lock your doors. Uh, Now from a few cases I've really studied and people I've talked to, um, I do believe they're very intelligent. And that's one of the theories. If it's dire wolves that have evolved and becoming more human, more of a human type torso, more hands instead of front paws, and their brains are probably growing too. And I've used this analogy before, and one of the analogies, this analogy I use is that they say us humans, man, came down out of the trees. That's what science tells us that we came down out of the trees and was able to convert to 2 feet, and our brains grow bigger because we started eating more meat. Well, only thing I can say there, if these dire wolves was isolated out in a small area, and we think they had died off, but they didn't, and they was slow. What else does? Oh, excuse me. What else does wolves eat if not meat? So over time, over the last 10,000 years, that we think they've gone extinct. Who to say that they haven't been out there, isolated in a patch somewhere, um, developing? I mean, their brains growing. They're starting to mutate more into a humanish form because that's actually a bigger way. They need hands to be able to maybe use crude tools. So yeah, I think if it is the dire wolf theory that's happening, why we're starting to see so much of them, and maybe they've moved out through the world now. They're trying to expand from their little isolation area. I mean, that's a theory that's going around right now, but it's just a theory. We have to prove it first, and that's the hardest thing to do. I mean, scientists won't accept anything unless they have a body, and that's including Bigfoot, Dogman, just any kind of cryptid, really. Um, and far as that goes, let's see if we got any more. And yes, sir, Space Jerk 35. I have also heard about them opening doors, or wiggling door handles, with the doors being locked as well. Um, See, Mike Joseph, there are dogmen all over Canada and the U.S. Yeah, there is. That's what I'm talking about. There used to be an isolation area where these started back into. You'd hear reports uh, out of Arizona and stuff, but most of those was put into skinwalker criteria. And then you started, I think, in the 70s, hearing about more sightings in Michigan, and then it moved into Wisconsin, and now and well, you had some in Louisiana and stuff with the Loup-Garou or Rougarou. Um, Also, the But now, yeah, they've kind of exploded since the 1970s for sure. They're either really growing in population and are starting to spread out, or there's some kind of, one of, like I mentioned earlier, that there might be there's a theory out there that a lot of these Dogman sightings are coming from skinwalkers, which has kind of spread it out from a community and developing into more of a cult, where there's more and more, they're been training more and more of these skinwalkers. I talked about that theory a little more earlier, but that's just another theory. And let me see if we got another question here. Do you think Dogman would attack humans without being provoked? Yes, I do. Simple reason. It was last year I investigated too, and uh, I think if you look in a video, I did a story on it, and I think it was a terrorizing Dogman encounter. I think that was the name of the story I gave it, and that was the one that I went to myself. I heard from, and it was in the eastern part of Kentucky, and there was well, I guess I can say father and son. In the video, I say son or daughter because the people, they don't want to be named or any way of it getting out about them because they're very prominent in their community. And we talked a lot, and I suggested for these, for them to seek out therapy because they were really scarred from what they went through. They went through probably 6 hours of these creatures actually trying to come into their camp. Uh, they said they know they shot one in the chest and it darted off. But the son did come back and say later on, probably in a couple hours or so, as they was dealing with them trying to come into camp and them having sticks and banging on stuff and trying to scare them off and firing when they only had to because of ammo, that those three people, I mean, two people was very scared at the time. They was terrified. It lasted for well over 6 hours, and they couldn't get out of there until daylight because they only had the one rifle. They could not move out of the area. They wanted to stay by the fire and keep as much wood on the fire as they could. And they were pretty traumatic. They went through a pretty traumatic situation. I mean, they know there was at least three, but they was really believing that there was more than three out there at the time. And let's see if we got another one here. Adam Emerson. I'm in North Carolina, and my neighbor a couple of weeks ago, something ripped the side of her chicken house off the same night. We heard strange noises, and when I threw a stick where it was coming from, it shook a big cedar tree violently. Which part, Adam? I'm in North Carolina. So, what part of North Carolina are you in? If you don't mind me asking, is it in the mountain area, or are you in central foothills, eastern part of the state? Lake Norman. Okay, I know that area very well. I've been through there plenty of times. Um, Let me see. Lake Norman area. Uh, I've heard of a few sightings down in that area, but being right there, since you're local, you may know more about the local sightings than I do. Because simple reason, like I said, a lot of people don't talk unless you go out and talk to them. See, I'm in the county part of city in Denver. Denver, yes, I know where you're at. So yeah, like I said, in your area, you might actually know more about the sightings in your area than I do because you're local. Um, I myself I live in the mountains, so I'm on the more eastern part, um, or western part. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, I mean, I haven't heard a lot. I have heard like two or three sightings from an area. Like I said, you may know a little bit more being local because you'd be surprised how many of us actually get out and talk to people and we share information back and forwards. So, but in that area, that could, I've heard of, not a lot of Bigfoot sightings down in that area, but I have heard of one right outside of Hickory, and it was a Bigfoot. So that kind of a creature. So yeah, I believe that could been maybe maybe a Bigfoot. I mean, it depends on if you heard any noises with it, because there are a lot of creatures out there that can rip off a chicken coop up pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk to you more about it. Maybe I can get your email or something like that one time, and we can sit down and communicate that away or something like that. I don't want to say, shoot me your phone number or nothing like that, because you got your here on live, so you don't want to let that out. Um, so they thought it was mutant dogs, with all three of them being very large dogs. Um, like I said again, the dire wolf theory is out there, and we know they existed. But are they moving out, or has just some of them may well, like I said, just hit me up, or I tell you what, you can reach me at neverendlessmysteries@gmail.com. If you want to write that down, it's neverendlessmysteries@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to converse back and forwards with you and give you any knowledge that I do have. Like I said, you've been local right there in that area. You may know a little bit more than I do. Because I've heard of a couple of sightings in that area that I might be able to tell you of. And far as Dogman sightings, though, I've had one around Hickory, on the outskirts of Hickory, that I've heard of, and it was a really weird sighting though. So I'm on the if and if about that one. If you know what I'm saying, it was a lot of strange things that occurred during that event in that one, and I would take the time and share that with you if you'd like to hear about it. Okay, let's see anything else we got going on. Uh, I'm in Ontario, Canada, and there have been encounters in northern Ontario. Yes, they have. See, you can go on and look up the website NAPD, North American Bigfoot. What? No, that's wrong. I'm sorry about that. I want to apologize. North American Dogman website. It's the NAD, North American Dogman. Oh, let me look it up here real quick. I got it live right here. Let me see. Yeah, that's the North American Dogman Project. It's a NADP for short. And also, if you're in Canada and want to learn more about your sightings, check Dogman Sightings by Tim Rainier. He's also got a lot of sightings from up in that area and stories. It's um it's on a data sheet by Tim Rainier, Dogman sighting. And if you'd like, I can maybe post some of these website site addresses for you later on in the description or something, so you can check those out also. Um, so I just like passing information on to everybody. Okay, well, I appreciate that. I'll get to that email after the show and kind of check it out a little bit. Thank you. Um, what time do creatures come out? Are they in the daytime? There are a lot of daytime sightings. I find it interesting. A lot of people says Bigfoot, for an example, is a nocturnal animal, but he's seen so much during the days. Oh, excuse me again. Coming into the daytime area, he's seen crossing a road a lot, which he's seen a lot at night too. So they could be traveling backwards and forwards during the day and night moving. They could just be like us. So we're up most of the day and up most of the night. A lot of people's up all night and sleeps during the day. I mean, depending on the Bigfoot you're running into, because they're very smart animals. From what my research is telling me, and I want to do a live event. I don't know if anybody is much in it. Everybody's just mainly into Dogman that's here tonight. But if you also like Bigfoot, I want to do a live event and discuss on the where they found the different primate DNA in Kentucky, and one of them was related to the chimpanzee for sure. I want to do a whole live section set show on that, and because there's a lot of information in the story I found on that one also. The chimpanzee comes out of Central Africa, and they found it in the wood, the DNA in the woods of Kentucky. So that was interesting because Kentucky is one of the states that also has these creatures called the devil monkey. It's one of the few states that they've been sighted in. And the devil monkeys are said to only be 3 to 4 foot tall, which is in a chimpanzee's range, and it's very closely related from what the DNA showed to chimpanzees that comes out of Central Africa. So I'm very interested in going over that with people also. Can you keep your normal time around 8? I've been coming on at 10, but I guess I can start coming on around 8. Uh, I don't see any problem with that because my live shows right now I'm only doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and if on maybe on the weekend I may just run one just to run a live show if I'm not doing anything. See, it's too late for us here in Oklahoma. So, see, if it's 10 o'clock here, it'd be 9 o'clock there. So if I go on 8, it'd be about 7 o'clock for you if you're in Oklahoma. I think 7. Or would that be 2? No, that's just 1. Uh, see, what that would be good from Kelly. Okay, it's too late for us here in Oklahoma. Let me see. I just read that one. Space Jerk 35. What about the Gowee Type 3 Bigfoots? Do you know about them? A lot of people have never heard of them, often confused with Dogman. I don't know much about. I've never been out and actually investigated one of them. I've heard about it, but I haven't actually gone out. And are they more down in like I'm trying to think where where they're called that. I'm trying to think the exact area that they're well known to be in. Like I said, I haven't invested getting my one myself. It's a little off from me. Uh, so I really don't know much about them. So I might as well just say that. Um, well, I also saw a video on a show other day. Is one of those hunting where they're out hunting cryptids, and a lot of those shows gives it a bad name to be out hunting cryptids. Uh, they make it look like it's so easy to get out and spot one of these creatures or hear them or whatever. If you're out on investigation, it's very rare and apart really before you get a lot anything. Uh, I've been out on investigations and never hear anything. Then I've been out on some investigation and gotten some really wild screams. And and like I said, I investigated that one in Kentucky where I was telling you about the man and his son. And I stayed at the night lake where there's at for 2 nights, and about 2 a.m. in the morning, I don't know if it was regular wolves or if it was the Dogman that he heard, but it was definitely wolves. It was a pack of them, and they was sounding off. And I heard coyotes earlier, about 9 or 10, about the time they're waking up, starting to get going through the woods. You can definitely tell a difference between a coyote and a wolf. But these was definitely wolves that I heard. But but they would on this hunting show. They was down there in I think it was Louisiana. I forget the name of the hunting show. But they called it a rougarou. But actually, it looked like a Sasquatch to me. It looked like a Bigfoot standing up by a tree. In the video, a man was out going through the swamps, and he was able to film it, and it looked like a very large Bigfoot creature to me when it stood up. It was crouched down, taking bark off of a tree. I don't know if y'all seen this video. It was looked like it was peeling the bark off of I think it was a cedar tree, and it looked like it was pulling the bark off of there, and then it stood up on him, and the man took off running and stopped the video. In that one, it was a little strange. It didn't look like a Dogman to me or a rougarou. It looked more like a Sasquatch creature to me. And let's see, so moving on, we got let's see. So 8 o'clock would be good for you. So it would be 7 in Oklahoma. I think I can start a little earlier. I've been actually thinking about that anyway, but I just do it at night because there's less traffic through here, and sometimes you can hear the cars passing. And I'm putting up trying to soundproof as good as I can, and I got to find someone that's a lot better than I am. Be honest with you, with electronics, I'm not a tech person, and and I've been trying several different mics out, and I've been trying to get a mic on here. Right now, I'm using the mic from my actual uh, video camera to transmit to you, or web camera, and but I want to get a better mic set up too. I'm having trouble to get it to carry it somewhere. I know OBS. I've been trying to work through OBS and all that, and I'm not a tech person, and for something's just giving me trouble. I can't get it connected right. But I'm working on it. I mean, doing the best I can, because like I said, I'm not a tech person. Um, Let me see. And Adam Emerson, the one my wife and my mother-in-law looked like a dire wolf. It ran in front of the van, and they said it was on all fours, and the height of the back was as tall as the van's windows. Yeah, I mean that lines up for a dire wolf because and a lot of things that lines up as these dogman creatures being dire wolves that may be evolved in some way is their pure size. They're not the size of a dog. They're the size maybe like a dire wolf. They're not, a dire wolf is huge. If it stands up on its hind legs, yeah, I think you're gonna get 7, 8 foot tall very easily. Dire wolves was very large, and see, Space Jerk. I heard East Coast. Um, Adam here's my buddy saw one in front of Dale Earnhardt's shop, and he said it stood up but was skinny, mangy looking, and said it was like 7.5 foot or so. Now I have heard where these dogman creatures will actually have their stomachs slightly sunken in like a dog. A dog rolls over their belly and to be rubbed, and you sit there and you see how their rib cage comes out and their belly scoop down a little dog and rub its belly. I've heard a lot about these dogman and wolf-like type creatures actually having that same effect to them through my researches. Their belly area, the rib cage seems the rib. Let me get it out here. The rib cage seems bigger than the actual stomach area. So it is said to kind of slope in like that. So that would make them look a little skinny, at least through the stomach area. But they're said to be thick and have very muscular arms and legs. But they're also said to be kind of thin through their hip area also. Um, See, my sister saw one in front of Gilwood Church in Concord area. I mean, she said it looked like the size of a cow, but was a wolf. Uh, yeah, again, I mean that sounds a lot like dire wolf to me, and that's definitely one of the main theories that's we've been kind of discussing back and forth for me and some other researchers I know that's really getting in and trying to put something together about them because there's so much unknown about these creatures and ever little bit of information that we can pick up. And that's one reason I want to do this channel also, because I want to hear from the viewers. I mean, have you had any sightings and stuff like that? So I want to hear that, because when I get more sightings from you, that's more information I can put into my research and saying that I'm coming up with. Uh, See, sound fun to me. Okay, my wife said it looked like the wolf from those Twilight Zone movies. Yeah, I mean, dire wolves were huge. I mean, probably um, 4 or 5 foot at the back, 6 to 7 foot long, maybe. So these creatures would not have any problem developing or evolving into a dogman type creature if they if that is one of the things that's happening. But that is a theory. So let me get back to this news article, this story here from Mysterious Universe. Now the name of the article, let me see, I think I said it or not, but let me make sure I did give them credit for the name of the article. Mysterious and frightening cases of dogman attacks. So, oh, excuse me, got a tickle in the back of my throat here. Uh, Let me see, where am I at? Okay. Now, in this article, another report is tied to the apparent mauling of a 13-year-old boy in Knott County, Kentucky. Apparently, the boy had been playing in his yard when his relatives saw him get attacked by a canine type creature and dragged off into the woods. The police were called and arrived to find the boy dead, his body located 400 feet up a mountain through treacherous, rain-slicked terrain. The body had been mauled by a large animal of some sort, but intentionally the coroner would conclude that it was not a mountain lion or bear, but rather something canine. So could a dog have possibly killed this boy and dragged his 100-pound body all the way up there through thick forest terrain? Authorities have apparently still not come to a firm conclusion on what actually attacked this kid. And Dogman or not, it is a rather eerie mystery. We are left with some bizarre cases orbiting an already bizarre phenomenon. Are any of these reports, or indeed any of the Dogman in general, real in any sense? If so, then what could this possibly be? Is it a flesh and blood creature, a supernatural phenomenon, or perhaps even an interdimensional interlooper? Or is this all just spooky werewolf type stories and urban legends to tell around the campfire? Is it hard to say? But the Dogman phenomenon has definitely not gone away, and it does appear that it will not anytime soon. Now that's the another story where it's said, but I don't know if the reporter ever looked at his to see if these stories was true. Now I'm gonna do the best I can and look up that last story because they gave me an area where I can start. And maybe I can call the local police department there and see if they had any, see if they can talk about that report, or even if that report was true, and make sure it's not just a story, if they just used a story off the website that somebody had put up and not really used. So I do want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I've had a good time and I've tucked in a few good questions from everybody and a few opinions and some good sightings talked about a little bit where there's been some seen. And Mr. Emerson, I appreciate you keeping up with me here. Um, and I like that, people have seen stuff. And like I said, being local in your area, you probably know more. So remember to maybe make yourself a good investigator, researcher. Just go out and talk to neighbors, people in your community. You might yourself learn about more stories. That's how a lot of us that knows each other, we do this. We bounce backwards and forwards, sightings from each other. That's why I got a lot of stories. I put out a lot of stuff that you can find on the internet. That way I can let the viewers know where they can go and identify where these sightings are, and they can see that somebody did actually report this. But we got a lot of sightings that we really don't share with people. That's in our observations. That because it's easy for someone to look at you and say, "Oh, you're just blowing smoke." Nobody told you that. When actually, yeah, we have. So yeah, I know a few people that just goes out. We go out. We talk to our local people. A lot of times around the national forest, wooded area where people likes to go camping. They have a lot of encounters there. Around lakes. You know, I do a lot of kayaking when I can and boating. And when I go out, I like to talk to the people around the docks. I hear about sightings from Lake James a lot by just going out there talking. There's a Bigfoot group in the area called 911 Bigfoot. They go out, they research and actually had a thermal capture of what they think was a Bigfoot around Lake James. It's not too far from me, just right down the mountain. So, um, but yeah, anybody out there can be a researcher. I mean, just go out and talk to people and uh, and add more information to our database. I mean, I got a very nice database going, uh, gigabyte of sightings that and trying to bring it together, trying to put regularities together. You know, you got so many sightings. They say this creature's this color, this tall, that, and you kind of deal out, and you get where you can kind of tell when someone might be trying to say, okay, well, I saw this and this, and it, but they're not describing the creature exactly the way you know it to be, you know, or it could be a new creature and you have to put that sighting into a different category. So just remember that, and please enjoy. And I hope y'all have enjoyed this one. I've had a really good time with the questions and the commentary tonight and the feeds. So I've enjoyed myself, and I hope y'all have. And until next time, have a great day, great night, and great day tomorrow. And I might be on this weekend. I haven't made. If I have, I'll post a live feed, and it will be going live a few hours before it goes up. Yes, and thank you, sir. And everybody stay safe. And until next time, have a like I said, have a great day. And thank you for watching those Endless Mysteries live. And have a good night. Thank you.